You're listening to WZYE 95.9 FM. You are listening to WZYE 95.9 FM, the most influential name in Caribbean radio in the tri-state area. Broadcasting from East Orange, New Jersey, the most influential name in Caribbean radio. WZYE 95.9 FM.
They confuse us with so much life. Just come on. Not even thinking that we would realize. And if we criticize, we could be ostracized. We don't know who to trust. That's why I say, Lord, please listen to this prayer that comes from before. Please send us another Moses again. Oh, we just can't go on this way. Please deliver us today. Time to make them oppress us stay. So the children could see their way. Make them get on their knees and pray. Then I'll be up to touch them there. Oh, just can't make it this way. Please deliver us today. Be like the Israelites did today. Please send us another Moses again. Lord, we just can't make it this way. Yes, deliver us today. Oh, we just can't go this way. No, we just can't make it this way. Please listen to what I say. Yes, hurry up with judgment day. We just can't make it this way. No, we just can't make it this way. Must we get old and gray? And the children can't see their way. Oh, we just can't make it this way. Oh, we just can't make it this way. We like the Israelites did today. Please send us another Jesus again. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 Lord, we just can't go this way. Lord, we just can't make it this way. No, no, no.
We gotta save it. Oh yeah, my sweet TNT. Oh yeah. We used to sing sweet, sweet Trinidad. To leave here, boy, you must be mad. This is the land of milk and honey, rum and coke and easy money. While those verses we were singing, alarm bells kept on ringing. Pundits on each pulpit saying, "Oh, heart and our soul decaying." Suddenly we wake up to a living nightmare, not bliss while editorial ask, how did we ever come to this? But so long we hear it, you got to stand up and be counted. For daily we're intimidated. Every day our next witness silence while we recoil from the violence. In our land there is a crisis, broke police, unruly ISIS, while sweet revenge gangs exacting. Police commissioner.
And of course, yes. Let me say a special hello to a special edition, a breaking news edition on the In the Village with the Dad Triplets on WZYE 95.9 FM. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we originate, we don't imitate. You are in the village, and we are doing a breaking news edition live and direct tonight. Let me bring in 1/3 of the Dad Triplets, no other than Thomas E. Marshall Nisbet. Tommy, welcome.
Good evening, Wall Street. How are you doing today?
Today is a splendiferous day, Tony. A splendiferous day. We're going to have a splendiferous, very short splendiferous afternoon today because, Tony, I felt that after listening to the Prime Minister's press conference, we needed to put things in perspective because, and I have no qualms of saying this, there appears to be, a propaganda campaign against the TA and Tobago. And
we've recognized that happening for a little bit now.
Right. We have recognized this for a while now, and we believe that it's about country and not about party. So we felt it was important for us to get some clarifications with respect to the Prime Minister's press conference here because, the Prime Minister is very good about putting out certain type of information that could be misleading. So we want to get, sometimes there's your side, my side, and then there's the truth, right? We want to hear the other side of the story as well. So let us bring in, live and direct from Tobago, no other than Mr. Max James, who is considered to be no stranger to In the Village with the Dad Triplets on WZYE 95.9 FM.
Good evening, Mr. James.
Good evening, Nimblet and Wall Street. I think that's your sobriquet, Wall Street.
That's what they call me.
you must have been a general there.
General, yeah, full 100. So Max, I think what we want to do, we want to get right into it, right? I just want to play some snippets of the Prime Minister's speech, and then we could get into some background of information that may have been somewhat misleading in the public space, so we can clarify some of that information. So let me bring up the video here.
So before you do,
go ahead.
There are two areas in particular which I found to be very mischievous of the Prime Minister when he discusses the whole question of the commission having a vacancy, seemingly to say that would have circumscribed the commission of not being able to do its work in the entire imbroglio regarding the search, the second search for a chief administrator. That's one. And two, where he is purporting to say that Farley should have advised him when the Constitution says something quite differently. So those two areas in particular, I'm hoping to address before we come off the live.
Well, you know what? Let's go straight into this. Let's go delve straight into those areas because I think it's important. And after, maybe we could play the video. Let's delve into those areas. So let's discuss the first area. Let's delve into that area.
Right. Well, so you playing it, or you just want me to comment?
You know what? Let me play.
Yes, play it so that everyone can hear the mischievousness of or the mischief of the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago.
Right. So let me play that. Hold on. So here is the Prime Minister's press conference today. Let's take a listen.
There are two loci of government administration in Tobago. One is the THA that has as its senior public servant, the chief administrator.
That's correct.
Regardless of the politics and the seats and the political party, the senior public servant in the assembly is the chief administrator. But there's the central administration service, which is the Prime Minister's office. That office has as its senior person another public servant in the capacity of permanent secretary. The chief administrator and the permanent secretary are roughly on the same level. And things were going fine until this administrator came to retirement age.
No, let's pause there a little while.
All right, okay. So all right.
It sounds an innocent statement. It is not there where things fell down, because the Prime Minister would have known for some time that the administrator, the chief administrator, would have been going on retirement, on retirement, having reached the age of retirement, of course, would have been going on retirement leave. So it's not true to say that things were going fine until that happened, because he knew, and he knew also by dint and by virtue of the Constitution, he would have had a role to play, and he and the Chief Secretary, well, as a matter of fact, he knows, or he knew that he had a role to play. So there was nothing awry as yet. So that's a little bit mischievous and misleading, because things were going quite fine even up to that time, because he knew. So any problem that he's speaking of might have been on his side, but he knew, because he said until. That is suggesting that occurrence or that particular juncture caused a problem. It should not have been a problem if he had done his duty. So let's continue with the tape.
All right, let's continue. Let's hold on there. Let's continue here. Okay, 1 minute. Okay.
The Chief Secretary. We sat and chatted for an hour and a half on matters Tobago. One of the matters that was raised in that discussion was the requirement to agree on a new chief administrator.
Agreed.
I at the time was unaware of the actual date of the retirement, but I knew that will come to me from the Public Service Commission, because these two positions, Permanent Secretary CAS, Chief Administrator, are public service positions. I'm a politician. The Chief Secretary is a politician. We have to respect the role of the Independent Public Service Commission, which treats with public servants. The Public Administrator will be sought by the Public Service Commission and identified. That commission will make a recommendation to the Prime Minister's office asking for no objection. The Prime Minister under law, before dealing with that, has to consult with the Chief Secretary. And after that consultation, a decision can be made as to who the senior public servant will be to become the chief administrator in the THA. That is the law. So I was aware of the vacancy. I'm expecting the commission to send to me its recommendation as the next qualified public servant in line. And of course, as I expected, the chief secretary was with me, and we had a recommendation, we discussed it, and we came to an agreement as to what should happen when the proceedings roll out. The Public Service Commission did its job. Knowing that this administrator was leaving, took steps to see who was the next in line and to recommend it to the Prime Minister's office for the Prime Minister's attention. And the Prime Minister, of course, will have to cover by ensuring that the Chief Secretary is in on the discussions. That recommendation got to the Permanent Secretary in the office of the Prime Minister, but did not get to the Prime Minister. Because
so he's suggesting there, as you will hear a little bit later down, it came to his office, but he didn't see it. Now, he doesn't say what time the thing came in and the time. So the timeline between when the document came in, the recommendation came in, and when he saw it. No, I just don't believe him, because that's not the way how government systems work, particularly at the level of the Prime Minister. Because when things come in of that nature, we expect that permanent secretary whose office is in the office of the prime minister. Say, Prime Minister, we have just received a letter from the commission, and it is for your urgent attention. But he throws it there to say, well, I couldn't act on it because I didn't see it. At the level of a president of a country, say like United States president, and in this case, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, of a matter of urgent national importance, because it has to do with the administration of Tobago. There's a public service in Tobago under the chief secretary. And if the body, the disciplinary body or the appointing body that is responsible for those kinds of activities, that letter comes to the Prime Minister's office, he would be told immediately. And I don't believe him. I wouldn't say he's lying, but I don't believe him. Go ahead.
I don't understand how an important thing such as that comes to the permanent secretary, and the permanent secretary doesn't inform the Prime Minister.
I'm very certain, because this is a matter that required the Prime Ministerial urgent attention. Because, and let me tell you why it was so important, gentlemen, and to our listeners. It involves the payment of salaries, the payment of vouchers, appointments and transfers, significant public service activities that could only be carried out by the chief administrator. So, and if you look at the operation of the Prime Minister, we can only conclude, we're gonna confirm it a little bit later down and prove it a little bit later down, and the operative will approve. I could only say that the Prime Minister is subversive to the intent and administration of the Tobago House of Assembly Act. And he's causing manifest injury to the people of Tobago. Let's roll the tape and you'll see, and I'll point out along the way how the Prime Minister has been very disingenuous.
All right. So let's get back to the tape, all right? Hold on. Let's get back here.
At the same time, on the same day that it arrived in the permanent secretary's office, in the office of the Prime Minister, from the Public Service Commission, another piece of correspondence arrived advising the permanent secretary that a new development has taken place. So the recommendation made by the Public Service Commission, which would have seen a smooth transition, that one was retired, next person in line, next most senior person, that was disrupted by a second piece of correspondence. So the second piece of correspondence came to the Prime Minister's office before the Prime Minister could even have seen the first piece of work from the Commission, because the first piece had been deemed functus, because the person that was appointed to be appointed by the Commission, with the Prime Minister's agreement, if it was had, that person was suddenly interdicted. By interdicted, I mean, I'm advised that on the last day of the chief administrator going out of office, that office advised the Public Service Commission that the person in line to replace the administrator, not a public servant, who happens to have been at cast in the Prime Minister's office, that person is now to be the subject of allegations of wrongdoing and to be suspended.
Let's stop there for a while. Let's examine that. Mm-hmm. The person in question became permanent secretary last year. Mm-hmm. And the audit came in just the other day. The Prime Minister has intelligence around him every day. He knows what is going on in all the offices, the senior office of the country, almost each and every day. So remember, the audit report from the Tobago House of Assembly would have been before the commission.
Correct.
And right, and so that the chief secretary, as he's going to try to throw under the bus, could not tell the prime minister that nameplate is unsuitable. Don't consider him. That's what he's alluding to, because there's an audit out. The commission, the chief secretary cannot be premature. Supposing he told the prime minister that person is unsuitable, don't consider him to be permanent secretary, or don't consider him or her to be chief administrator, would have been premature. Suppose the commission came back and said, in spite of the audit, we found no problem with the particular officer, then that officer would have lost an opportunity to function at the most senior public service position in Tobago. It is the same individual that the prime minister cleared to work with him. And if there was any problem with the particular individual, then the prime minister had only one question to ask, or two questions as the case may be to ask. Is this person suitable? So if the person was suitable to work with the prime minister, it is only in his province to determine who functions as the permanent secretary. The law says so. Let me read the constitution for the benefit of the viewers. And I'm reading from section 121, 4, subsection 4 of the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago. It says, a person shall not be appointed to the office to which subsection 3 applies if the Prime Minister signifies to the Public Service Commission his objection to the appointment of that person to that office. Subsection 6 says, power to make appointments and transfer to the following offices shall vest in the Prime Minister. And subsection A, any office of permanent secretary from one office to another, such office carrying the same salary. So that when the Prime Minister took the person in question to be his permanent secretary, and on a continuing basis, because of the intelligence that he receives, he had a duty to discuss with the commission, is this person suitable? So since he agreed, then it is his baby. He agreed that that person was competent to be his permanent secretary. The chief secretary can't get into that. Now, when it comes to moving that same person, because perhaps of seniority, to the assembly as chief administrator, the chief secretary could not still even say, because he was cleared to work as a permanent secretary, where it comes to function as a chief administrator, where that person has to work with the chief secretary. The chief secretary has to approve. However, the chief secretary, notwithstanding the audit, emphasis, notwithstanding the audit, still could not say, I don't want the person, because he would have been premature. Because had he said, I don't want such and such a person, then that person might have been missing an opportunity to act as chief administrator. They had to wait until, let me repeat, both Keith Rowley and Farley Augustine must wait and had to wait on the outcome of the decision of the Public Service Commission. That was what happened. So when he tries to lay the blame at Farley's feet, Farley could not have known of the outcome. He'd have been premature and putting himself in danger of denying someone who the commission might have found no problem with.
Okay, so Mr. James, stay right there. We're going to go for a quick station identification. It's in the village with the DAT triplets and WZYE 95.9 FM. We have a special breaking news edition tonight dealing with the THA issue and the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Prime Minister Rowley, press conference today. So we're going for a short break. Stay and stay. We'll be right
You're listening to WZYE 95.9 FM. You are listening to WZYE LP 95.9 FM, the most influential name in Caribbean radio in the tri-state area. Broadcasting from East Orange, New Jersey, the most influential name in Caribbean radio. WZYE 95.9 FM.
We are back with you. It's in the village with the Dad Triplets on WZYE 95.9 FM. We have a special breaking news edition today. We have with us Mr. Max James of Tobago, and we are discussing the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Prime Minister's Rowley, news conference today when he addressed certain issues facing Tobago, and we are discussing now how some of those issues may have been misleading, and we have Mr. Max James of Tobago with us. You want us to go back to the video, or you want to say anything?
Well, I think I made the point, and just for those listeners and perhaps viewers who may have just come in, the Prime Minister in his media press conference, is suggesting that the Chief Secretary misled him or did not give him information, or had information that he should have given to the Prime Minister. And my contention is that that is sorely misleading, because one, the gentleman in question who is now on suspension was the Prime Minister's, one of the Prime Minister's permanent secretaries. And the Prime Minister approved of that person to become his permanent secretary in the first place. Now, the audit that was completed, that was undertaken by the Assembly, by the Tobago Assembly, of which Mr. Augustine is Chief Secretary, he still could not have told the Prime Minister, because it would have prejudiced the gentleman's position. So he couldn't say, well, this person who we just agreed upon to become Chief Administrator. Remember, at that instant time, the Commission had not told the Prime Minister or the Chief Secretary the outcome of the audit. They didn't have that information. So the Prime Minister said, well, Chief Secretary, you should have told me that this man was under investigation. I'm very certain, because that was all over the news. That was all over the public service in Tobago. The Prime Minister has operatives in the Tobago House of Assembly. They give information all the time. So he knew, without a shadow of the doubt, that the particular permanent secretary of which he approved was under investigation. Yet he approved him to be his permanent secretary in his office. When he came now to transfer that person to be the chief administrator, he already had that information that the guy was under investigation. And when it went to the Commission, he also knew 𝐈𝐬𝐬𝐿 that the Prime Minister knew. He could not have known, he could not say that he did not know of such a development. But again, to charge this Chief Secretary of saying that he acted delinquently or he was underhanded, it would not have been to the Chief Secretary's benefit to be underhanded. The single most important issue here is that the Commission received the audit report and was doing its work to appoint the person best suited, which happened to be that particular individual. But their work was not made privy to the Prime Minister and to the Chief Secretary at the time they agreed. So to suggest that Farley Augustine didn't tell him is most disingenuous. And to convey to the public that kind of propaganda where he constantly seeks to discredit the young man and his operatives here, political operatives, to show the man to the public as somebody who doesn't know what he's doing. The Chief Secretary did not have the information clearly. Remember, the first recommendation went in. They didn't have the information. And by the time the Service Commission did its work, the information came in afterward. The sequence in which the Prime Minister cast that is very suspect. He's saying, as soon as one came to my desk, I didn't see it, And while that is still fresh on my desk, that is what he's saying, another one came in. And even if that is so, the Chief Secretary could not have known until the Commission reported to him and to the Prime Minister the results of their findings of the audit that would have made the individual under interdictment, or he's indicted, or he's now under significant allegation of wrongdoing. So it is when that came in, and I wager both of them knew of that at the same time, more or less about the same time. So to my mind, again, the Chief Secretary, the Prime Minister, is masterful but devious in his propaganda to say that the Chief Secretary didn't tell him and they sat for an hour and a half. If you look at the timeline, clearly none of them knew how the Public Service Commission would have ruled, even temporarily, on the information of the audit, now making that permanent secretary not suitable to the position.
Max, they sound like me like Meritless Part 2, because
well, even that, because he gets himself involved and he's not paying attention to his prime ministerial duties. And this is why I'm saying I don't want, and another time I will say he's lying.
Tommy,
and I believe.
Tommy, did you want to say something?
Yeah, we have, before on a prior time, I suggested that he's particularly lazy. He doesn't take the time to review things and do research before making statements. And it has shown time and again, yes, you're a doctor, and you're Dr. Rowley, and you're the Prime Minister, but in that role, you need to take time to review things carefully before you make statements. And over, he keeps making the same mistake.
Tommy, I want to add to that, though, unless there is a conscious effort in order to put information out into the public domain to confuse people and mislead people.
Indeed, because by the time the corrections come, people are already entrenched in or settled in their view that Farley, again, is doing nonsense. And that's what the Prime Minister wants, because he's playing politics. And he's causing, as I said, significant or manifest injury to the people of Tobago, and he himself as a Tobagonian. Remember his first salvo after the people in Tobago rejected him, when he went up for the Tobago West seat, and the people said, "We don't want you." His next huge salvo, after Robinson built the seaport here in Tobago, nonetheless being a finger pair, he says at the Duck Pond, he has never had anything good or favorable to say about Tobago, his own motherland. And time again, as Mr. Nimblett would have indicated, he doesn't take time. The very lazy Prime Minister, and he comes out like a bull in a china shop and figure that people are going to be afraid of him. Not so. Doesn't work so any longer. maybe for his own cabinet ministers, because they dare not oppose him. See what I'm saying? So again, to repeat for the viewers and listeners, the chief secretary could not have known, and he could not be preemptive of the work of the Public Service Commission to tell the Prime Minister, Mr. So-and-so is unsuitable. They had to wait on the outcome of the review of the audit before they could have. So in the meantime, they have to act as if they don't know. They have to continue though. They can't wait. When the results come out, the person could be removed. So there was no mortal danger or no public service danger or impediment or problem that could have been created. So even if they appointed him today, they could remove him tomorrow, because they have the authority and power to appoint and to disappoint, as the case may be. So there was nothing preventing the Prime Minister at the time to say, well, you made an appointment and yet you had this information. The Prime Minister had the information as well.
So
I'll say at this point, he's a flat liar.
So let's continue with the video here. Let me make sure it's
continue, because there's an important thing to be said down at the end there.
Yeah, hold on. Let me see. Are you guys hearing this?
So the commission now has no choice but to withdraw the letter which was sent to the Prime Minister's office, which was yet to be seen by the Prime Minister, by advising the Prime Minister's office that a withdrawal has taken place of so-and-so person, and that the process now has to start over with the Public Service Commission looking for the next person in line. And of course, the process of commission to Prime Minister to Chief Secretary would have to take place before an administrator could be had. And that is the reason why the Tobago House of Assembly does not have a chief administrator at this time. So what I find worrisome and very disappointing.
Okay.
He's coming to it. Let's roll it. He's coming to it. Let the public hear the joker.
Okay.
Is that the chief secretary met with me in the capacity of a public official running a part of the country, made a recommendation to me in the most innocent of way, and withheld from me the fact that it was the intention of the assembly to take action against the person that they interdicted in the way I have just described.
So there you have it, folks. The Prime Minister, again, let us keep that in mind. The Prime Minister is head of all the intelligence comes to him every single day. Every single day, intelligence comes to him. You know, such and such is happening in the country. So let him not pretend he didn't know. He knew of the allegations against the particular officer. He knew when the audit started, and I wager he also knew when the audit finished, if it is in fact finished. But in so far as they have the information, he knew. But yet he himself went ahead and took the same guy under allegation or under suspicion, whichever way you want to put it, and made him his permanent secretary. So how come he can say today that he didn't know of the particular officer's problems in respect of allegations made against him? He took the same guy long before. It's Tobago. Everybody knows what goes on. There's nothing new under the sun. You hear of Biden today. You hear of Trump yesterday. All these fellas are now under a significant investigation, and the world knows it in a minute. The social media in a second. So the Prime Minister knew to say that he was not told, and the Chief Secretary took a decision, because the Chief Secretary has to agree, to accept the guy. The Chief Secretary had to accept the guy as he is, because he cannot outrun the investigation. He cannot say, well, I don't want this guy. He'll be preemptive and mischievous if the Chief Secretary, had done that. Because again, I ask the question, if indeed that the commission, knowing what it knew, the Chief Secretary doesn't know that, so the Chief Secretary has to proceed in seeking the filling of the position as if he doesn't know. So he can't say, well, I can't proceed until I know. I have to stop until I know. Because again, the commission has the power to hire, to fire, to suspend, to remove, to insert, depending on what information comes to it. The commission had not yet completed its work. And Farley would have been out of place to tell the Prime Minister, don't do this, because the commission had not completed its work.
You know, I mean, I just, the more you hear of this, the more you hear that, you know, and I think there is more to come out from this, yeah? There's more to come out from this. But let's continue. Go ahead.
Yes, go ahead. Let's roll to the end of this. We come in a conclusion at the end of the tape.
Yeah, let's continue to listen. Hold on.
I am very disappointed in my Tobago colleague and colleagues because I have gone out of my way to ensure that no accusation could be truthfully made that the government that I lead has done anything other than to facilitate the assembly. So when I heard the Deputy Chief Secretary, interestingly enough, the person speaking to the public in Tobago on this matter is the Deputy Chief Secretary. The Chief Secretary has gone AWOL. He gone missing. And the Deputy Chief Secretary, in the most haughty of ways, describing this problem as one that has to do with the Prime Minister. Because it is easy in Tobago, when you get yourself in difficulty of competence or incompetence, you just blame Trinidad or blame the Prime Minister. I will have none of it. I've gone beyond the call of duty to ensure that no truthful allegation could be made against my office or against me with respect to the people of Tobago. And to listen to the Deputy Chief Secretary explaining that they can't do this and they can't do that in Tobago, the reason why there's no chief administrator is because of the actions of the Tobago House of Assembly, who claim to have some audit and who claim to use the results of the audit against a senior public servant. And I refuse to believe that when the Chief Secretary spoke to me on that day, an hour and a half he spoke, that he did not know that what he was doing at the level of the Chief Secretary was interdicting the officer who was in line to be the next post and putting somebody else up to me for my agreement.
Stop.
I find that
that is the most ridiculous assessment by the Prime Minister. You listen to that joker. Listen to that joker. Who could be more haughty than this Prime Minister? Who disrespects women all the time by the things he says. He is as arrogant as the day comes. So to claim that the Deputy Chief Secretary is speaking in place of the Chief Secretary, I want to remind the Prime Minister, the law that controls the Assembly is not the same law that controls the Prime Minister's office and the appointment of a Prime Minister or a Deputy Prime Minister. There's nothing in law that says there's a Deputy Prime Minister in our system. But there's a law that says that is a Deputy Chief Secretary. So what that means, you can't have a Deputy Prime Minister speaking whilst the Prime Minister is in the country, because it doesn't provide for that. I want you all to listen. When the Prime Minister is in the country, even if he is sick, as Prime Minister, he's the only one that could speak. If he's out of the country, then the President appoints somebody to act as Prime Minister. In the case of Tobago, the law says there is a deputy Chief Secretary. So if this Chief Secretary wakes up and has a cold or fever or is injured or is set back by some kind of thing, the Deputy Chief Secretary is empowered and authorized by law to speak on behalf of Tobago or in place of the Chief Secretary. That's what the Deputy Chief Secretary is there for. He deputizes in the absence or if the chief secretary is indisposed at any time. So to come here before the world and claim that the deputy chief secretary is speaking on behalf of the, so the chief secretary is some absent without leave. He's entitled to be absent. And the deputy chief secretary to, as is just the case, to deputize for him. And that's what she did this morning. So there's no question of incompetence. It is the prime minister who is incompetent, not knowing how the law functions. It's a different space in Tobago because the legislation is just different. So the chief secretary can say, deputize for me this morning. What's wrong with that? He's trying to mislead the nation and the world by saying that the chief secretary is incompetent, the administration is incompetent, but we'll have none of it. It is the prime minister, in fact and indeed, who is incompetent and just plain mischievous and a flat liar.
But did the deputy chief say anything that was inaccurate? Did she make any inaccurate statements or anything like that?
She was totally accurate. As I took pains to explain. So when the prime minister again speaks about going out of his way, that's a walk in the park. That's a normal everyday thing. He ain't going out of his own way. What way? That is his duty. So he's not going out of his way. He's supposed to confer with the commission and with the chief secretary, and the chief secretary must agree who he wants to have to work with him. So there's no question of competence or incompetence on the part of Tobago. It is the prime minister causing and making mischief all the time.
Maybe he's going out of his way to bastardize the THO in Tobago. Maybe he is.
That's what he's doing, because the fallout of here's what the confusion he's creating. If he succeeds and in fact this is what happened, people can't be paid, contractors can't be paid, vouchers can't be signed, issues such as transfers and environments and transfers of money from one area to the other area. It is for the administrator in the office of the chief secretary, which happens to be the chief administrator. Those functions can't be carried out. So then you get chaos, and people begin to blame Farley and say, well, you know, they ain't paying us. These fellas must be bad. So that is the fallout he wanted. So that they look for every opportunity to cause mischief and chaos in the society. And I wager that's what the prime minister wanted.
Now, Max, what is the easy solution to this problem as far as, you know, the chief administrator not being there and checks having to be written? What is the easy solution to that, if there is one?
Well, the chief secretary must have been in discussions, I suspect, or he can say, I can have, as an interim measure, this particular administrator can function, as the case may be, to doing certain duties, as I just outlined, on behalf of the assembly. However, as you'll hear towards the end of the tape, it will be a glorious revelation. You will see where the chief secretary say, the prime minister is saying, and as fate would happen, there was a vacancy on the Public Service Commission. So I don't want to run ahead. Let's play that end and you'll see how he's lying.
Yeah, don't run ahead. Don't run ahead.
So let's play the end of the tape and you'll see how the prime minister is lying.
Let's go back to the tape. Let's go back to the videotape, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Hold on. Tape. Hold on.
Go down. Something about there.
All right, let me start right there and see.
One that has to do with the prime minister. Because it is easy in Tobago, when you get yourself in difficulty of competence or incompetence, you just blame Trinidad or blame the prime minister. I will have none of it. I've gone beyond the call of duty to ensure that no truthful allegation could be made against my office or against me with respect to the people of Tobago. And to listen to the Deputy Chief Secretary explaining that they can't do this and they can't do that in Tobago, the reason why there's no Chief Administrator is because of the actions of the Tobago House of Assembly, who claim to have some audit and who claim to use the results of the audit against a senior public servant. And I refuse to believe that when the Chief Secretary spoke to me on that day, an hour and a half he spoke, that he did not know that what he was doing at the level of the Chief Secretary was interdicting the officer who was in line to be the next post and putting somebody else up to me for my agreement. I find that deceitful, I find it disappointing, and I take note of the fact that not everybody who claim to be what they are is what they say they are. This simple act of ensuring that the officer was interdicted ties in with accusations made moons ago, political accusations made. I don't know if you are aware that there is serious legal matters. I discovered after, I was never told, that the senior officer in the Prime Minister's department in Tobago at CAS was the subject of meetings between himself and the Assembly under the cover of lawyers. Nobody told me that in Tobago. I discovered that this weekend, that this development was taking place in Tobago. And when the senior public servant at CAS was to be appointed Chief Administrator, this trigger was pulled. So I want to say to Tobago, another difficulty arose, because once this second vacancy was created, it fell to the commission now to go to treat with the replacement person. As fate would have it, there's a vacancy on the commission. That vacancy is to be filled by the president after consultation with the Prime Minister and leader of the opposition. So that has to take place. That is now taking place. And when that has been done and the commission is properly constituted, then the commission would fill the void that has been created 2 steps down by the interdiction of the officer who was head of department of the Prime Minister's office.
So stop it there. So you see how the Prime Minister is untruthful? Let me read the Constitution for the benefit of our listeners. At section 120 of the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago, it says, there shall be a public service commission for Trinidad and Tobago, which shall consist of a chairman, that's 1 person, a deputy chairman, 2 persons, and not less than 2, which is 4. So the commission can be comprised of 4 persons, any 4 persons, but you must have the chairman or the deputy chairman, either one, and 3 others, and no more than 4 other members, meaning you have 4 other members to the chairman and deputy chairman. What did the Prime Minister say a while ago? That there was 1 vacancy. So it means that a quorum still existed for the commission to function. The commission cannot function with 3 persons, but the Prime Minister said there was 1 vacancy. So you see his line? He's purporting to say that the commission cannot function without 1 person. The law says you can function with 4 or 5 or the whole 6. Prime Minister saying there's 1 vacancy. It means therefore there were 5 others to carry out the work of the commission. You see how the Prime Minister has put his foot in his mouth? Because he who practiced to deceive, you practice deceive.
Yeah, I mean,
Let me see. That's right. He who first practiced to deceive something. I'll get it right.
Yeah, well,
just one blank a while ago.
My mother-in-law told me 34 years ago, a liar has no memory. You know, I don't know why she told me that, but
yeah. So yes, I'm now got the quote. Oh, what a tangled web we weave
when we practice to deceive.
Practice to deceive. So the Prime Minister is bent on deception and propaganda and misleading the nation and the world. He again said, and we just heard it, you could play it back just a little bit from the end. Let's play it back.
Let's play it back. Let's play it
back and hear what the Prime Minister says.
Let's play it back. Hold on. Let's go back. Let's go back here.
Come back a little bit. Right there. Let's try him there.
Okay.
The consultation with the Prime Minister and leader of the opposition. So that has to take place. That is now taking place.
Go back a little.
And when that has been done, and the commission properly
right there.
Okay. That this development was taking place in Tobago.
Right.
And when the senior public servant at CAS was to be appointed chief administrator, this trigger was pulled. So I want to say to Tobago, another difficulty arose because once this second vacancy was created, it fell to the commission now to go to treat with the replacement person. As fate would have it, there's a vacancy on the commission. That vacancy is to be filled by the president after consultation
with the
Prime Minister and leader of the opposition.
So stop it there. That vacancy has to be filled by
the politics and the seat, political party.
Stop it. So he's saying there's a vacancy on the commission. That is truth. But that vacancy has to be filled by the president in consultation with the Prime Minister and leader of the opposition. And he seemed to say that vacancy has to be filled before the commission can go back to do its work.
Correct. That's what I got out of that. And I don't understand that.
Well, in other words, he's saying that there is a vacancy on the commission. The commission has 6 persons. So if there's a vacancy, there are now 5 persons. And he's saying we can't, ostensibly he's saying, we can't function with 5 persons when the law says you could function with 4. So then having 5 persons on the commission does not prevent the commission from doing its work of going the second rounds of finding a person suitable to function as chief administrator. You see the point?
Yeah, so it appears to me that that information being put out there is misleading information.
Let's say it's a flat lie.
Okay.
It's a flat lie.
Right, and people will think now that, you know, the TH, will not be able to pay their bills, right, and wouldn't be able to do things they need to do.
Until that second process has been completed, meaning,
right.
We go find a vacancy, which will take some time, because the president had to consult the leader of the opposition, the prime minister, and whatnot. And then they had, so when that person is filled, maybe, and the president might take some time to fill that vacancy, might be a week or 2, and while Tobago is suffering. But you know what happened today? Whilst the prime minister was speaking, we heard that there are no recommendations for persons nominated for the position of chief administrator and his own permanent secretary in his office. So you see how the guy is lying? He just tells us that the process had to go over again because we have a vacancy when the constitution says you could operate with 4. 1 vacancy would have made it 5. Prime Minister saying we had to fill the vacancy. So it's how untruthful he is. And then while he's yet speaking, you know, when the story of Job, when God allowed Satan to lick up Job, while one servant running in, another one running in the same time, saying, oh gosh, whirlwind take a blow down the house. Another one said, the Chaldeans and they kill us, everybody, I alone come. That's the prime minister for you. Whilst he is speaking, public officers got the notification. So I don't see how the president could have found somebody so quickly, and then that person had to go through all the notes of the audit and to see, and then to go on all the recommendations. The recommendations came. Those study Rowley.
So this was already on the train. This was already in the works.
Of course. But telling us,
yeah.
You understand how the man is lying. So what the phrase says, oh, what a tangled web we weave when we first practice to deceive.
But
The man is not to be trusted.
but Max, why is it so much propaganda by the central government against the Tobago House of Assembly and Fali Chavez? Why so much?
Well, because he wants to cause chaos. If people are not being paid, contractors are being paid, critical appointments are not done, and CAS is in Tobago, so other things have to come. CAS is the conduit between the Prime Minister's office and the Assembly. So a lot of things have to come through CAS, which is Central Administrative Service Tobago. So for the viewers, that what CAS means. So that institution that is CAST, CAST, Central Administrative Services Tobago, that's the conduit or the gateway between the Prime Minister's office and the office of the Chief Secretary. That's how they communicate. Of course, the Chief Administrator can call the Permanent Secretary in the office of the Prime Minister as well. But that's the route for official documents and certain kinds of circular and all of that. So the Prime Minister says he didn't know. He knew as day follows night. Says he didn't know what's going to be. Only last week he knew. Man is a liar. Because the same individual but that he himself chose and approved. And he casts so much slight on the audit. Audits are done all the time in this country and all other countries. It's not some other audit. Because the PNM has friends who are having, all sorts of contracts upon contracts, overstated, oversubscribed, overvalued, and that's how they were making the money. So the feeding trough was taken away from them, and that's why they're upset.
Yeah,
and as I said in the last program, over the last 20 years, Tobago got close to about $60 billion. Have you seen $60 billion in development in Tobago? So guys, I had to run off to my other assignment.
So we want to thank you so much for joining us tonight, and I hope the information that you have shared with us can shed some light with respect to the things that are going on in Tobago, and hopefully, we wouldn't see, as you stated previously, that the propaganda machine of the PNM will stop the propaganda in Tobago and trying to undermine the performance of the THA for them to do the best for the 60,000 Tobagonians who are living there.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. James.
Thank you.
And then Blake.
All right. Bye-bye.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, Tony. So, hold on. Let me just go solo here, Tony.
Yes, solo.
Tony, hold on. Let me remove that too. Hold on. Remove. Yeah, Tony. I'm happy that you joined us, because it's important for us to have the other side of the story too, rather than to just have one side. Because when you only have one side of the story, that is all out in the public domain. Like, for example, if we didn't have Max James tonight to critique, the press conference with regard to what's going on in Tobago, the story tomorrow would have been all the story what the Prime Minister said.
It's gonna be, even though we have this going on, it's gonna be what the Prime Minister said.
Well, it's going to be, but then there are other informations out there now in the public domain.
That's correct.
With respect to, here is an opinion coming out of Tobago in what the Prime Minister knew, but he didn't tell you.
I really want to know if it's going to be listened to by the Trinidad public, because it seems as though the Prime Minister have the thing unlocked, so to speak, where his deceit takes precedence.
Well, I think, Tommy, what happens is that, and I think that's why we are here, to bring some balance to the thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
hey, before you continue, let's address people in the chat and tell them good night. Nadia, I see you came in first. Good night to you. And Ken John, you inside.
Yeah. Yes, and this was a breaking news edition. You know, many people just get it late, but I think this is what we need to do, and this is about country, you know, right? This is not about party. This is about information, sharing information with the people, you know, to get another side of the story. You know, the prime minister said he didn't have certain information. You know, Max James said, you know, there's a great possibility he had this information, but he may come to the press conference to try to mislead the people about what he knew and what he did not know. You know, and to me that's kind of sad, you know.
I hope Fali holds a press conference also, and clears the air.
Yeah. I think that's something that well, the deputy chief held a conference this morning, and she talked about this situation too as well. You know, and that's when the prime minister is talking about competence and incompetence. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
which is
mean,
insignificant.
yeah. I mean, why use a prime minister? You want to talk about people competence and incompetence? Really? I mean, come on, man. You're a prime minister. Why don't you act like a prime minister?
The thing is that we keep saying this when he points a finger, for one he points one, but four is right back at him.
You know, I mean, I just don't get it. I don't get it. I understand that, you know, he have to mislead his flock. You know, the people who are following him, he have to mislead them in order for them to believe certain things. You know, I was listening to this story today. A person sent me a story about the donkey and the is
The
it the
racehorse
donkey and eh?
don't care what the racehorse.
The donkey and the lion. Is the donkey and the
The
lion?
lion, they don't care.
Yeah, and they went to the king and the lion said the donkey said the sky green. Who is correct? You know, and the king tell them, well, you know, the lion is correct, right? No, the donkey is correct, right?
Mhm.
Anyway, was the thing between the lion and the donkey and the at the end, the man said, if you believe what a donkey is saying, you know, then something is wrong with you. You know what I mean? And and
Right.
and, and that's what it is, you know. The information that's being put in the public space
Misinformation.
is disinformation. There's a disinformation campaign with regards to Tobago House of Assembly. Plain talk, bad manners. Plain talk. You know, and that is coming from the highest in Trinidad. That is coming from the top.
But you have to realize that based on the traction they got in that THA election, you have to expect that kind of behavior.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, knowing who we're working with, the traction they got in that THA election, they're still reeling from it.
He said to the tiger, "The grass is blue." The tiger replied,
Oh, you know what,
"The
Tony?
grass is green."
I'm looking for this
The
thing.
discussion heated up. and
Let
the
me
two
get this
decided-
thing. I have to play this thing because I think it's kind of important. You know, you may have heard it before. It's the donkey and the tiger. It's the tiger. But hold on, let me get it.
You saw that. You saw the post I sent you today about the professor walk into the classroom and just put out a student.
No, I didn't see that. What was that one?
He walks into the class and he asks a young lady sitting in front, "What's your name?" She says her name, and he says, "Okay, I want you to leave this class right now and don't come back."
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's just looking at him. All the other students are looking. So he then challenges them to say why are laws made? What is the what service does law give to the populace?
Mm-hmm.
And then, this one said this, that one said that, and then one of the students said, so that there will be justice. And then he challenged them. He said, I just put her out and nobody challenged me. Nobody said anything. Nobody objected. Nobody protested or anything of sort. He said this is what he was trying to accomplish. and it just went over everyone's head. He said, when you do
He said
nothing
to the
about
tiger,
it,
grass is blue.
Yeah, go ahead.
when you do nothing about injustice when it's being done, you're setting yourself up so that you will be a victim of the same situation as time goes on. It's like the Germany story with Hitler.
Right, yeah. You know, he actually, you know, it's funny, yeah. You know, Tommy, that's the one I have to remember it. It tells about. I'll look for that one. That's a good one. There's a saying that they talk about when, you know, when somebody came.
Yeah,
you
when
know,
they came for the
right. You know what? Let me play that one for you, Tommy, and then we're gonna get that one right there because I think that one is important too. Right? So this is the one with the donkey and the tiger, right? And these things are so important. And the same thing you're talking about there, Tommy, in that, you know, you just see something happen and you just ignore it and you don't say anything. So
nothing.
You say nothing.
He said to the tiger, the grass is blue. The tiger replied, no, the grass is green. The discussion heated up, and the two decided to went before the lion, the king of the jungle. The donkey began to shout, Your Highness, is it true that the grass is blue? The lion replied, True, the grass is blue. The donkey continued, The tiger disagrees with me and contradicts and annoys me. Please punish him. The king then declared, The tiger will be punished with 5 years of silence. The donkey jumped cheerfully and went on his way. The tiger accepted his punishment, but before he asked the lion, Your Majesty, why have you punished me? After all, the grass is green. The lion replied, In fact, the grass is green. The tiger asked, So why are you punishing me? The lion replied, That has nothing to do with the question of whether the grass is blue or green. The punishment is because it is not possible for a brave and intelligent creature like you to waste time arguing with a donkey, and on top of that come and bother me with that question. The worst waste of time is arguing with the fool and fanatic who does not care about truth or reality, but only the victory of his beliefs and illusions. There are people who, no matter how much evidence we present to them, are not in the capacity to understand, and others are blinded by ego, hatred, and resentment, and all they want is to be right even if they are not.
You hear that?
Absolutely.
Yeah? It's just unbelievable, right? And we continue to say the grass is blue in Trinidad and Tobago. Right?
No, we
Whatever
said red.
Yeah, whatever they tell us. You know? When did you send me that video, Tommy? Today?
Yeah, today. Looking
in the group? In the chat?
Our group chat.
Okay, let me see if it's
should be right before you sent out the notice for the show.
Okay, all right. So let me get that one. I'll get that one. Let me get that one. I'll get that one. Yeah, because I think these things are very important, Tony, in that. Here we go. Okay, here it is. Hold on. You see, Tommy, and that's a great point, in that we see things happening, and because it doesn't affect us, we just sit there and don't say anything. Yeah?
Not knowing that they came for you today, tomorrow they'll come for me.
Student kicked out of class. I think that's so important. Let's get that one. So, folks, we just had a special breaking edition tonight, and it was regarding the Prime Minister press conference, and part of it was on what happened in Tobago, and we felt it was important in order to get a different side of the story by bringing in Max James out of Tobago and he kind of gave us, you know, some balance
Right.
with respect to what actually happened. There is some truth in the Prime Minister press conference, but there was also a lot of nefarious behavior, and this.
You there, second desk, blue jacket. What is your name?
My name is Alexis.
Alexis, please leave my lecture room. I don't want to see you at one of my lectures ever again.
I don't understand.
I am not going to ask a second time. Thank you. Why are there laws? What are laws for? Anyone?
Social order?
To protect a person's personal rights. So that you can rely on the government.
Justice? Thank you. Tell me, was I unfair to your classmate just now? Indeed I was. So, why didn't any of you protest? Why didn't any of you try and stop me? Why didn't you want to prevent this injustice? You see, what you have just learnt, you wouldn't have understood in 1,000 hours of lectures unless you lived it. You didn't say anything because you weren't affected yourself. And this attitude speaks against you and against life. You think it doesn't concern you, so it's none of your business. Well, I'm here to say, if you don't help bring about justice, then one day you too may experience injustice, and there will be nobody there to stand before you. Truth and justice lives through us all, and we must fight for it. Because in life and work, I mean, we often live next to each other, but not with each other. We console ourselves that the problems of others are nothing to do with us, none of our business. And we go home glad at night that we're spared, but it's about standing up for each other. Every day an injustice happens in business, sport, or on the tram. Relying on someone else to take care of it is not good enough. It is our duty to be there for others, to speak up for others when they cannot. I am here to teach you the power of your voice. I want you to learn critical thinking to empower you to stand up for what is right, even if it means going against what everyone else is doing. Let's begin.
There you go, Tommy.
Yep.
I was trying to get the other one when they came for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let me see if I can get that one. When
It came, yeah.
When they came for you, there was no one. Came for you, there was no
No one left to defend you.
left to defend you. Your poem. Yes, here it is. Okay, hold up. First they came. Okay, here. Okay, so this is what it says. Some people change it. First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me.
That's right.
Right? Yeah, and I changed that into, I put something to do with the P&M in there somewhere. I'm gonna look. you know. But Tommy, I want to thank you for this short impromptu. Yeah. Yeah, this was an impromptu breaking news edition. We do quite a bit of this. So I don't know if you have a closing quote that you have available. If you want to do that.
Well, in this season, all I want to keep saying to our listeners is that the change that you want to see, you have to be it. It begins with you. With you. You the man in the mirror. You are the man in the mirror, and it all begins with you. However, if you look into the mirror and you don't like what you see, don't break the mirror. Don't be upset with the mirror.
Thank you, Tommy. So don't be afraid to lose people. Don't be afraid of losing yourself by trying to please everyone around you. From where I sit, this is it. The clock on the wall said that's all I like to say, but I've got to go. Remember, hard work beats talent. When talent does not work hard, for every 60 seconds of anger, you lose 1 minute of happiness. We're going to play, the station identification, and we're going to go out with this song. We just can't go on this way. Good night, everyone.
You're listening to WZYE 95.9 FM. You are listening to...
Go ahead, Tommy. I'll cut you off there. Go ahead, Tommy.
I say everybody be safe out there. We'll see you tomorrow, God willing.
Okay. Take care, folks. See you tomorrow.
You're listening to WZYE 95.9 FM. You are listening to WZYE 95.9 FM, the most influential name in Caribbean radio in the tri-state area. Broadcasting from East Orange, New Jersey, the most influential name in Caribbean radio, WZYE 95.9 FM.
Is Pharaoh still existing? As he before, resembling an Israelite, not being treated right, enslaved day and night. We just can't go on this way. We just can't go on this way. Please deliver us today. We just can't go on this way. We like the Israelites still in pain. We just can't. Children could see day. For next to nothing pay, so they can't see the way. We don't enjoy equal facility. Like Pharaoh and company, brainwashing we say we free. We just can't go this way. We just can't go this way. Please deliver us today. We just can't go this way. Time to make them oppress us pay. We just can't go this way. So the children could see the way. We just can't go this way. Suffer like this. You said that you will take care of the poor, just like you did in Egypt. When Pharaoh had the Israelites in bondage, you delivered them. But here again, we are in the same khaki pants. We have those modern Pharaohs who oppress the poor, who represents Israel. They confuse us with so much lie. Not even think